I think Minot's community-minded businesses make it magic.
It's Prairie Grit.
Having a strong and progressive medical center like Trinity Health.
I believe Mesa really puts the magic in Minot.
So, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the role of assessors and how they affect the property tax that homeowners pay. When someone hears the term assessor, they seem to think of a scary figure reaching for their wallet. Not so. Assessors don't set tax rates. Assessors don't chase tax dollars. An assessor is interested in fairly determining property values, and they take great pride in it. Property tax is determined by a simple formula. Assessors only affect one of these variables, the value. And they do so with incredible accuracy. Assessors aren't tax collectors or even tax setters. They're just fellow taxpayers, and their primary goal is to make everything fair and equitable. Imagine that you're in a restaurant with two friends. One orders a hot dog, one orders a plate of caviar, and you order a steak. The waiter comes to the table with a total bill of $100, but he doesn't know how much each of you should pay. If everyone paid the same amount, the guy who ordered the caviar might be happy. But what about the guy who ordered the hot dog? Enter assessors. The food is your property. Just like these meals, some people's property is worth more than others. And it's the assessor's job to determine how much each property is worth. That's it. So in the same way the value of these menu items would need to be determined, an assessor places value on properties to ensure fairness and equity. After the assessor determines the value of each property, local governing bodies will set their budgets for the coming year. They set the tax rate in order to produce the dollars needed for their budgets. The value of a property does not affect the amount of property tax needed. The sum total of all those budgets is a set number that has to be divided up among all the property owners. So even if everyone's value was cut in half by the assessors, the tax rate will be raised in order to generate the same amount of tax revenue. The assessors don't determine the taxes you pay. They just determine the values of properties to keep everything as fair and equitable as possible. When you notice a change in your property's assessed value, that change is the result of a never-ending quest for fairness and accuracy. Assessors are graded on their performance, so there is a detailed system to get accurate valuations. First, the assessor looks at similar properties that have sold, their sale prices, and the terms and conditions of each sale. That's the reason your home won't just be compared to the place next door. Studying things like square footage, age, and location helps assessors determine how comparable another property is to yours. Even seemingly small details, like an extra bathroom or finished basement, can result in significant differences in value in two otherwise identical homes. Assessors maintain a thorough database of real estate information to make this process as precise as possible. Changes in value are typically the result of local real estate market sales or major changes to a property. Remodel a kitchen or finish your basement, and your property's value could increase. When you see your home's assessed value, you can rest assured that the number has not been drawn out of a hat, nor generated with anything but equity and accuracy in mind. Long story short, assessors are here to help, not trying to hinder. Their focus is accurate values, not tax collection. The only things an assessor chases are fairness and equity, and they take great pride in it.
you get used to being at home and
We'll call the meeting of the Minot City Council to order for today. It is Monday, March 1st, 2021. It is 5:30 in the afternoon. I would once again ask for everyone in attendance to go ahead and put their electronic devices on silent or vibrate to keep the distractions down to a minimum. Roll call, please.
Evans,
here.
Janser,
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Pittner,
Here.
Padragula,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Sitma.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the folks that are watching at home, just one little piece of information here. We do have Council President Olson attending via telephone for the meeting this evening. Our next item on our agenda is COVID update number 3. We do have Lisa Clute here from the 1st District Health Unit for the latest on how the vaccination progress is going and other items that are all COVID encompassing. Good evening, Ms. Clute. You may need to hit the green button. There you go.
There you go. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So vaccination is humming right along. I think I have some good news to report. Let's see if I can pull it. So with Ward County right now, and this is all of our providers, First District, private public health providers, as well as Thrifty Mart, the vaccinations given by them. So these numbers are indicating, I feel like drum roll please, 69.3% of our 75 and older population is vaccinated. Our target, as you know, is 70%, so that feels very good to us. And those numbers are based on the 2019 census denominator, so I'm very confident about those percentages that we're giving you there. The 65 and older, right now we are showing 56.7% in Ward County are vaccinated. We've had that category opened now for a fair amount of time, and we've done a lot of reaching out. Healthcare providers have been calling. We've been advertising that. And so we'll continue to promote the vaccine. If people have not had access to it in that age group, they can contact us or their healthcare provider. With that, we have had in Ward County 15,221 doses given. That does not include the base, and so right now the percent of population that we are showing as 16.7% of the population has received at least one dose. 9.8% of the population has received 2 doses. So we truly are moving up in that number. Everybody in our area has been vaccinating with people with 2 medical conditions, and we would anticipate that by next week, and our goal is by next week, we will be into childcare and educators. And I think it will not be long before we have actually more vaccine than what we have people arms to vaccinate at the rate we're going. So with that, the big news in our end is the Johnson & Johnson during the weekend, or that received the emergency use authorization. The ACIP met and will continue to meet, but I can tell you right now that North Dakota is anticipating receiving approximately 6,900 of the Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. We had met last week and had another meeting today where those vaccines are going to go is into the pharmacies. That way, I think it will be good communication to tell people if you want the Johnson & Johnson, this is where you go for that. The other thing is it's a one vaccine or one injection vaccine, and it's easier for us to track down those second doses and healthcare providers than it is for pharmacies. So the Johnson & Johnson could likely be available in pharmacies, not the Thrifty Mart. They'll continue to receive their federal allocation, but in other pharmacies as early as next week. So we may see doses coming in later this week or into the weekend. I have a lot of information about the Johnson & Johnson, and I guess I won't utilize your time unless you would like me to give you more information on that. I can talk to you about efficacy rates and all of this kind of stuff and safety tests, but I'll be happy to do that if you would like that information. The other thing is the cases that we are seeing in the community right now. Today, and you have to remember, our test numbers are way down. So obviously your numbers are going to reflect down. But we did have positivity rate of 5.3% today. That was 5 new cases. But what we look at mostly is our 14-day. If you remember right, back when we were surging, we were always watching our 14-day cumulative. So in Ward County, new cases within the last 14 days have been 124 cases. Your positivity rate for the last 14 days is 3.3, which is still well below that 5% that makes us concerned. But I will say that we have counties in the other areas of First District other than Ward that are above that 5% positivity rate. So we're watching that. As a district, we right now are at 3.9% positivity rate. And just a comparison, at North Dakota, we're at 2.3%. Now, there's lots of things that we have to be aware of, and this should not create fear or panic. You have to remember, I just told you about our vaccination rates, and we have some good vaccination rates in that higher risk area, but we certainly do have reason to watch those numbers. We know the UK variant can impact this. We do not know how widespread the UK variant is because most of these tests are done with rapid tests, and you can only get the genome sequence through PCR testing. So a lot of that we don't have. I asked the State Health today Department if how they were determining what to test, and they said they were just doing random samples on the PCRs. So it's a random, unless there's an indication that they should go into that. So, again, I just can't leave this podium without saying it. This is not over. We are seeing an uptake. We're seeing clusters. It doesn't mean that we stop life as we want it and know it, but it does mean that it's important to practice these mitigation strategies while we're enjoying the events and the activities that we want to do. So we need to get further along on the vaccination rates because, you know, the younger populations and so forth, they have the ability to spread. And we all, well, they do spread. And so we just want to keep those numbers down to a manageable number while we continue to vaccinate. So please encourage people to continue to practice the mitigation strategies. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa, or Ms. Kloot at this time. Doesn't look like we have any. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the information, and as always, I'm assuming if people do have questions about where they're at in line, that they can reach out through the State Health Department or First District.
Yes, and we should, you know, watch First District. I continue to say this, watch our websites, our social medias. We'll always announce it in all media sources when we move into the next grouping. But I truly do anticipate, we know that we are seeing increased vaccine coming in, and in the next, by the second week in March, we will all be receiving regularly scheduled doses coming in, so it won't be on the rotations any longer. So that will be good.
All right, thank you. That takes us to next item on our agenda. This is number 4, the mayor's report. I do have a presentation, again, as it is the first meeting of the month here. Just a quick rundown on the February meetings and activities. On the 2nd, I did have a legislative meeting in Bismarck, and this was regarding the Northwest Area Water Supply on some proposed legislation that Public Works Director Dan Jonason and staff did accompany down, getting into some of the details on that. On the 2nd was also the virtual state of the city, as you can see on the kind of the upper right-hand picture there. Certainly something that was unique, but I would hope next year that it is something that can be done in person, as it certainly has a lot more impact to be able to connect with the community rather than just sitting in front of a cell phone doing the state of the city, which I also found fascinating, just how far technology has come in that regard. COVID Coalition meeting on the 3rd, an interview regarding the State of the City Military Affairs Committee, a number of tracking planning committees, meetings rather, and then League of City virtual update, and then another home acquisition at North Dakota Title and Guarantee. I did meet both the city manager and I with a couple of individuals as part of the Broadway Circle project update to get a little bit of insight into their planning process and where they're at as it continues to evolve. Task Force 21 was on the 8th. We did have a special city council meeting on the 8th as well. Chamber EDC meeting was on the 10th, as well as the North Dakota State Fair annual meeting, and the CTE update and planning meeting regarding some legislative activities down in Bismarck. On the 12th, I was able to meet with our new representative in our region for the Vision Zero campaign, that is through the state of North Dakota in reducing highway deaths, and then more legislative planning meetings. Another home acquisition on the 19th for flood control and the Minot Chamber EDC Legislative Forum that was held at the North Dakota State Fair Center. I did want to point out that that was the first in-person legislative forum of this session for folks to come out. It was very lightly attended, and we did have 2 legislators in person that were at that. The rest were meeting virtual. 22nd was the walkthrough at the old Wells Fargo building prior to the 23rd, signing the purchase papers for the new City Hall at North Dakota Title and Guarantee. On February 23rd, I did have a very unique opportunity. I was invited out to Minot Air Force Base for an orientation flight to go up with the B-52 bombers. I just wanted to spend just a moment on this one, as it was certainly more than just going out for the cool factor of being up in a B-52 bomber, but really getting to see the inside of the mission, the logistics required for each training mission and flight experience. Everything that goes into the planning, the mission planning. Of course, on the 23rd, we had a lot of wet snow, which kind of gave it a whole nother aspect of seeing how their mission operates in any kind of weather. The logistic support behind the scenes, all of the office personnel for each and every mission that goes into it is astounding at the pre-planning that goes into each and every mission. The collective coordination, not just with Montana Air Force Base, but other Air Force bases within this specific mission, was supposed to be mid-air refueling. The logistics preparation for the personnel and the equipment, the maintainers, everything, along with the objectives of the training. And you can see some of the other mission readiness, personal in-flight experience, and getting firsthand experience with the B-52 bomber. We ended up flying. We were delayed a little bit because of some technical issues, which, again, a 1960s B-52 bomber that has been continued service since that time. It is astounding at the pairing of technology from the old bird to some of the really, really updated technologies that are down below. I wasn't able to see everything, as there is still some classified material within the B-52 bomber. They did have that blacked out for anybody who might be wondering, so nothing top secret was shared with me. But we did fly down to St. Louis doing some targeting and tracking and other objectives that was in their training flight hours. They did actually put me in the cockpit for about 30 minutes, and I did get to fly. Which was a whole nother experience, much, much different than some of the other aircraft I've ever been in. And I can't imagine spending 24 or more than 30 hours in those flight seats when they go through some of their training missions. So that was just, in my mind, an experience on how much training and how much endurance that they really go through with being in that cramped quarters. For anybody who hasn't been in one, there's literally one place in the plane I can stand upright, and that's the ladder going from the flight area down into navigation. So from St. Louis, we did fly back up to South Dakota and then did touch and goes. The bottom right side, we came back in fairly late and did a couple fly-arounds for Minot and touch and goes out at Minot Air Force Base. So it was an unbelievable experience. I do have to say thank you to the 23rd Bomb Squadron, the Bomber Barons, the 5th Bomb Wing, the flight crews, and the maintainers out there, the 5th Bomb Wing Commander, Colonel Michael Walters, and then, of course, the United States Air Force, and certainly all the men and women serving in the armed forces. To see just a glimpse into the training mission that they do is just something extra special as part of Team Minot, and something I hope to convey to the rest of the public more and more as we move forward, is continuing to build our relationship with Minot Air Force Base. So there were a number of other meetings, phone calls, emails, social media, and interactions throughout the rest of the month. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding any of my appointments or meetings. Normally aren't too many. So with that, we move on to our next item on the agenda, and that is the city manager's report.
As always, there's the city manager memo within the council packet. Again, not a whole lot significant to report. Still, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think it's important that I take the time to connect well with community leaders and staff, and so I still continue to do that. Although I think I'm kind of getting to the end of that, so to speak. Having a little bit more time on gaps in my calendar, which is nice to see. Although those quickly fill up with other issues that come up at a moment's notice. But continuing to connect with businesses, community leaders, staff, et cetera, and that's going well. I would say I believe the honeymoon period is quickly coming to an end, but I'm anxious to get to work. I don't have any other elements unless the council has any specific questions with regards to the city manager report, but I do want to turn some time over to Mr. Lakefield, our finance director, who wanted to provide some context to some of the items that he outlined in the city manager's report specifically.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lakefield.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to briefly go through this. I put together some information out of our new software system and tried to filter out some of this and put it into categories that it was useful. and made some sense. And we tried to limit this information to just operating accounts. So things like salaries, benefits, those types of things, fairly high level. It does break it down into some smaller groups based on the funds, general fund, airport, cemetery, et cetera. But I just wanted to caution you on a couple of things here because, we always have to have some context around these numbers, and it looks very optimistic, but there's some caveats that come along with that. And I just want to point out a couple of the high-level ones. For example, there's some significant categories where it shows we have quite a bit of unspent budget, but there are some items out there that have been encumbered, which means those contracts weren't completed in 2020, and they're continuing into 2021, so that money is spoken for, it just hasn't been spent yet. So that's the first caution. There's another category in particular, the equipment rental category. It looks like there is a large amount of money there that was not spent, but accounting rules, GASB 87 requires us to capitalize those leases now, so we actually transfer that money out to a capital account, so it doesn't hit that expense account where it's budgeted. So some context around there. Again, the idea behind this report is to give some high-level information on where we ended up at the end of the year with our operational accounts and how those were managed. And I certainly would stand for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Lakefield. Any questions for our Finance Director?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one other tidbit, and I didn't put a slide on here, but we did get our January collection numbers in here a few days ago. And typically, January sales tax collections is a big number for us, probably one of the largest of the year, and it was disappointing, to say the least, when the January numbers came in this year. When we look at our year-long total that we had budgeted for, we're slightly ahead of our 1 month's portion of that yearly total. But when we look at year over year, we're down about 30% for the month of January, year over year. So we'll continue to monitor that closely. This could be an anomaly, a timing issue. There's a number of things that could affect that. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that as we move forward as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. Did you have any further follow-up, Mr. City Manager? All right. Any questions for our City Manager before we proceed? Next on our agenda is item number 6, our City Attorney Report. Good afternoon, Ms. Hendershot.
Hello. I submitted a written report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our City Attorney?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 is consider the report of the Magic Funds Screening Committee. The annual compliance report for the Magic Funds Screening Committee is attached for the council's review. I don't believe that we need to take any action on this unless it is a motion to accept. Okay. We will go ahead and proceed and file that on consent items now. We have a number of different items under consent, not nearly as many as in previous meetings, 8.1 through 8.4. Are there any items that need to be pulled for individual discussion? If not, what are the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve.
Motion to approve items on consent as recommended by Alderman Ross. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Evans. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Last call. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans, Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Motion is approved. That takes us to Section 9, our action items. The first is the Enterprise Fund Policy for Agreement between the City of Minot and the Minot Convention and Visitors Bureau. Visit Minot. Policy for the the Minot Convention and Visitors Bureau Recruitment Management Plan is following up to the approval of the legal agreement adopted by the City Council at its regular meeting on December 21st, 2020. The recommendation before the Council is to approve the policy pertaining to the December 21st, 2020 Enterprise Agreement with Minot CVB. Visit Minot. Documents were attached. What are the wishes of the Council?
Move approval.
Motion by Alderman Pittner to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Ross. Discussion on the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Final-
Mr. Mayor, I've
Alderman
got a
Ross.
question for Kelly, if she could step up. I think it's Kelly. I'm just going to throw a question out. Just as an example, if I sit on the Arena Commission, and at our last meeting, we were talking about events that they were working on. I guess it comes down to, when are events eligible for this type of funding? Is it after the approval? Or if they put in something in September, are those events eligible to tap into this type of funding?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Ross, that might be a better question for Stephanie Shanerock.
Okay.
For the city's part of it, I believe the event, I believe the event goes to this committee, subcommittee, before the event occurs. They ask for the expenses that they're requesting. Visit Minot works with them, but the city only reimburses those funds after the event occurs. So if the event does not occur, the city does not reimburse those. But Stephanie can probably answer your question more specifically.
Good afternoon, Ms. Shanerock.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Yes, to answer your question, Alderman Ross, that would be, the events need to, we're working with the events ahead of time. Visit Minot and this committee are working with all the events ahead of time. This, we provide a, we work on this pro forma, which is in the packet, which has to say it's going to have this many hotel rooms, this many percentage of people from out of town. It does have to either be a new event or an expanded event, and it does need to be prior. So there are a lot of requirements that have to be met before any kind of funding is even considered. And then, as Kelly had said, essentially the contract with these events is with Visit Minot, and then after the event happens, that's when we complete our report with economic impact estimation, and we come to the city of Minot with invoices and tracking.
So just to be clear.
Continue.
Just to be clear, so then a new rodeo coming to Minot that they started working on in September would be eligible, if they met all the requirements, would be eligible to tap into those funds.
So, Alderman Ross and Mr. Mayor, so you're saying an event that happened in September of 2020?
No, I'm saying an event, let's say that the State Fair Center
Yes.
put a bid in.
Okay.
And they put the bid in September or October. Is that event, and they haven't received notification yet, will that event be eligible to tap into this type of funding? It hasn't happened yet. Let's say it's going to happen in September of 2021.
Okay.
But they put the bid in September, October of 2020.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Ross, they put in the bid with whom? With us or with the?
No,
for an
with the event.
Okay, sure.
They're working directly with the event.
So, yes, I mean, essentially, if that event, if that event came in, was planned for, it doesn't really matter when they put it in, but so if that event hasn't happened yet, and they came to Visit Minot and said it is either a new event or an expanded event, so in other words, increased by 30%, if they have met those requirements and they meet the requirements of either a Tier 1, Tier or Tier 2 or Tier 3 event, then yes, they would be potentially eligible for funding.
Continue.
And just also as a follow-up, just working on some of these events, you put together the economic, the multiplier factor that goes into creating this $10 million number. Will those pro formas take into account businesses that supplied products in kind? So if we have, I mean, just throwing numbers out, if we have an event that had $100,000 economic impact, but we had businesses that donated, $15,000 as a total number, will those in-kind numbers be taken away from that $100,000, or will they not even be included in the equation?
Excellent question, Mr. Mayor and Alderman Ross. There is not a multiplier on this. The way this format is working, we're actually working with the module developed by by Tourism Economics, which is Destinations International and Sports Events and Tourism Association has created a module. And we're working with them on that. And the way that works is it takes into account hotel rooms and amount of money that the participants will pay. It doesn't take into account some of those other multiplier things that, I guess, depending on which economic impact professional you talk to, it can quickly get out of control. I mean, they're very difficult to compare when you start considering multipliers and in-kind services and, okay, well, these people came and the direct spend was 1.5 million, but by the time that rolls over 8 times in 4 years, that can easily add up to a whole lot more when you look at those multipliers. So we wanted to keep it really simple and not go there. And so we have, it's considered direct spend, and that's why we are partnering and actually paying for this module that is, truthfully, it's conservative. And when you do these, the way it works with this module is you say this is going to be for instance, for the ACHA National Women's Tournament we have coming in. That's one type of event. If it's going to be a youth hockey tournament, that's another type. For the regional baseball tournament that we're working on in July, that's another type. And the formulas are all different. We don't do those formulas. That's formulas that this module has set up.
Any further questions for Ms. Shanrock? Alderwoman Evans.
Great plan, I love it. One slight modification I'm going to ask for is in the last paragraph on page 3, and the grounds of not denying services, if you can add gender identity or expression to that list of groups.
Mr. Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, so when it says gender, so then we would just
That
add.
would not include.
Okay. So would we just say gender and gender identity? Would that be the right corrections, or we can just work on this
I would just add a
afterwards?
whole nother because it's different, gender identity or expression.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm going to write that down so I don't.
I appreciate that, Stephanie.
I'd look to our city attorney as we would need a motion to amend.
I'd like to make a motion to amend to the plan to include.
The verbiage that was outlined?
What?
The verbiage that was outlined?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to amend the contract with the motion that was outlined. Any discussion or questions on the motion to amend? Second call. Seeing none, final call. Please call the roll on the motion to amend.
Evans,
Yes.
Dancer,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yep.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma.
Yes. Back to the original motion as amended. Any further questions for Ms. Shanrock at this time? Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Discussion from the council on the motion to approve as amended. Last call. Seeing none, the motion is to approve as amended. Please call the roll.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Dancer,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. That takes us to 9.2, the City Hall Rehabilitation Consultant Selection. Last year, the City Council authorized the purchase of the former Wells Fargo building for a new City Hall. Staff has since been working to secure a consultant to perform architectural services for the city. A consultant selection committee is comprised of 4 city staff, and Alderman Olson is recommending JLG to perform the architectural services for the project. 3 recommendations are to recommend the council select the JLG as the architectural consultant for the project, authorize the city engineer to negotiate a scope and a fee, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Move approval.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Alderman Pittner and a second by Alderwoman Olson. Discussion on the motion. Alderman Padragula.
Because this is a significant project and will be going on for a few years, I wanted to start saying something I'll keep saying throughout. And that's that I think as we move ahead with this, it's very important that the input of all city staff and the council and even the public be taken into account. And when the consultant agreement is formulated, I'd like that in from the very beginning. Part of the reason I say that, besides this being an important, expensive project and the fact that it's going to be something that'll be around here hopefully for 50 or 100 years, is that in the past it was seen, I think, by the previous municipal administration as very much a staff issue. And it wasn't, the council was not even involved, and it's not clear to me that all staff were adequately consulted when these plans were being made. So I want to start talking about that from the beginning, that you know, once the consultant is selected, that you know, we make a broad-based effort to include lots of different kinds of input. There have been changes in the work environment, there have been changes in the community. Again, it's impossible to foresee what's going to be happening, but hopefully this will be with us, this structure will be with us for 50, 75, 100 years. And I want to make sure that we do it right, that we get it right. I'll say it now, and hopefully I won't have to keep saying it too much again, but I think it is really critical that this is a symbol of our community, symbol of our municipal government, and we need to get this right. And we can't just see this as some sort of technical kind of architectural kind of thing. It stands for the community, and I think it's important that the entire community has some voice in this, and the council be actively involved. Thank you.
I'd look to our city engineer, Mr. Lance Meyer, to maybe give a brief overview on the outline of the process as it moves forward from here.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Padragula, thanks for that. We've already envisioned several opportunities throughout this project where we'll have a building committee set up with city staff from various departments, our property maintenance folks, and Alderwoman Olson has expressed interest in sitting on that committee. So we'd have some council oversight. In addition, we plan to have multiple check-in points with city council as we progress through the project, such as space needs analysis and some of the different building concepts and things as that process moves along. So I envision several of those opportunities to come before this body and have our consultant work through that with you. In addition, we'll have a community open house at some point to help walk the public through some of the decisions that we'll be making as committees and as staff so that we receive their input as we work through the process. So we've envisioned that all the way along. We don't want this to be closed in any way, and I assure you that'll be a part of the contract.
Thank you.
Alderman Ross.
Just a follow-up, Lance. We took possession of it last week? Correct. And I know we do have some tenants in there right now. I guess just, I haven't had the opportunity to tour it. What kind of shape did we get it in? Was it, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Ross, generally speaking, I think the building was in pretty good shape. There's some maintenance and cleaning things that we had to take care of. Our public works staff has done an excellent job meeting with all the tenants and asking them about their concerns. We want to make sure that they know who to contact if there's a question. We'll have staff going through the building and making sure the common areas are clean and kept up. We've talked to them about security and just some of the general things that we'd like to convey to them getting started. As this process moves forward, we'll be getting into contact with them and starting to walk through how the construction project would take shape, what impacts they may have or that may have during the construction process, and how we'll work through that. So more to come on that, but I think generally speaking, when we took the building over, folks were happy with our presence and with what we were telling them. So I think we're in good shape. How many tenants do we have? I believe there's 6. Okay.
And Lance, I would expect as this project moves forward that communication is going to continue with them, as well as some of them may choose to find another location, as clearly the end goal of this is to have the majority of the city hall encompassed. I'm sure all of that will play into the aspect with our space analysis needs to occupy, as well as not just city hall but central dispatch.
You're correct, Mayor.
Any further questions for our city engineer? Alderman Patagula.
Just remind us when you expect to have construction started and ideally construction finished and move in.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Padragula, right now, we're so early in the process, but generally speaking, what we would like to see is the space needs analysis, all that preliminary work take place this spring. We get into the heavy design process over the summer, and we'd envision construction documents ready to go out to the public bid probably sometime this fall. Hopefully contract award sometime late fall in that time frame, and then it's probably about a year build time is what we're initially envisioning. That could be a little more or less just depending on what the final design is on the project.
So you'd be looking at occupancy, let's see, fall of 2021, probably maybe the new year of 23?
I think that's a reasonable time frame.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve with the recommendations. Any further discussion? Last call. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Pittner,
Yep.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Number 10 is personal appearances. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public to come forward and speak on any item that is or is not on our agenda. One more call for personal appearances. The opportunity for the public to come forward and speak on any item that is or is not on our agenda. Moving on, number 11 is miscellaneous and discussion items. For the council, are there any individual items? Alderman Ross.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to take this opportunity to talk about, March is going to be a big month for us in Minot. We've got 16 of the best Class B basketball, boys and girls basketball teams making their way to Minot this month. And their fans, their families, coaches, all coming to Minot for their state tournaments. And we've got the KMOT Ag Expo coming up, and we've got the KX Sports Show, just to name a couple of events. And, it's our opportunity to really show them what Minot's all about. Businesses out there, people out there, you see a high school sweatshirt that's not from around here, just an easy thank you for coming to Minot and showing them our hospitality means a lot, and it goes a long way. They take that back to their community, and they spread the word about how welcoming it is to come to Minot. So we've got plenty of opportunity. There's going to be plenty of people in town, and it's great. Yes, the Dome is not going to be at full capacity because of COVID restrictions, but we're still going to have basketball fans in town watching high school basketball. Also an opportunity for me to wish good luck to the local basketball teams. I know we've got our Redeemers, Bishop Ryan. We can even claim South Prairie, I believe, a little bit in that. They're all taking part in district regional tournaments in town, so good luck to them. And I also want to wish good luck to Minot High girls and boys basketball teams hitting their regional tournaments this week and hopefully moving on to state. So good luck and be safe, and let's have some fun this month.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alderman Ross, and I personally will be there wearing both hats in that capacity for the tournament. So appreciate you bringing that up, and good luck to all of the teams. As one of the teams from my home area many, many moons ago is coming up to the state tournament, first time in a very long time. So any other items that need to be discussed for the good of the order? If not, we are in line for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Ross to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Janser. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.